Okay. All right. Perfect. Got it.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. We are now recording.
So, go ahead, Don. You were going to say something.
That's fine. I can talk about either Informa or Med Answering. Which one do you want to do first?
Annie suggested Informa because that might be a little bit quicker.
Okay.
And then we'll jump in.
Sure. Informa Exhibitions is a global company. They do event planning, event management, like big conferences in cities, right? If you go to their website, they got some nice pictures of big conferences. They have other divisions in Europe and China that are kind of related businesses. We are working with the group out of Dallas. Brendan Austin, who is our, financial analytics practice leader, has had a he lives in Houston. He's had a multi-year relationship with this customer. We've been doing consulting probably for 3 or 4 years. It's not quite full time, but we're doing a lot of projects. The key thing that won us a lot of kudos, and Informa actually spoke at our fall analytics conference, not this year in 2019, but back in 2017, I think, 2 years ago, was that they were implementing SAP globally, right? And their CFO, while you're doing SAP implementation, and SAP is, multi-months to years typically, you couldn't get financial reports, couldn't this, couldn't that. So the division in Dallas had, planning analytics. At the time, it was called TM1. We've upgraded them to the cloud version of TM1, which they had originally on premise. But basically, the key was like within 3 weeks, we were able to consolidate global financial statements and get reports, for the CFO that had been taking, he couldn't get in past 3 months out of SAP. So he became very excited about, planning analytics and TM1 and what the division in the U.S. was doing. And we've, been able to grow that, basically implementation since. Some of the other divisions also use TM1 in the other parts of the world. Now, frankly, I've been trying for us to, be able to do more right now, but unfortunately, they're kind of in a holding pattern until some other projects get done. Annie, one of the things I'm thinking about is we could get from Brendan the presentation that he and Kyle Welch, Kyle is it's a female vice president of finance at Informa. They did at the conference. So Annie, we should ask Brendan to send that because that kind of highlights. And now again, that highlights what was done, and we felt good enough to speak at a conference, and so did the customer. We kind of have to ask Brendan directly. So since then, in the last 2 years, we've done more work. Could you just put that, write a paragraph about what we've done since then. I'm not close enough to tell you what the details of what we've done, but we should put some of that in there. So I'll pause there.
Okay. Can you, for people who are new to analytics and not sure what they need or where to start, can you talk a little bit about why TM1 was the solution in this particular situation and a little bit more about what it is? because we can break this out into social. I think one of the things that I really want to build out for 2020 is kind of a glossary for people that aren't as versed in the terminology as you are. I'm sorry, my little guy's homesick from school and seems to be fine right now. So I want to make sure that we have kind of a baseline nomenclature and we're not jumping right into abbreviations. I want to just make sure we can level set with everybody reading this, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I'm trying to find a file here. Hospitality Insight Brochure. This is probably do you have the Hospitality Insight Brochure? Let me send this to you right now because I just found it, opened it.
Yeah, just in case. I'm pretty sure I have it in the website files, but
and all right, I'm sending it to you right now, and the reason why, well, I could probably share my screen, right? Can I do that? Yeah, there we go. Tell me if you can see this.
Not yet, but I pulled it up here. There we go. Yep, okay.
So, again, this is specific around the hospitality industry, right? That's why we put this together. But basically, the answer to your question, like, you know, it used to be called TM1, IBM's product, but then 3 or 4 years ago they renamed it to Planning Analytics. But it's essentially, you know, the same product. It's just nicer front end. But right here is what that does. What you just asked me to describe is pretty well distilled by these bullets. Develop and share a single version of the financial truth with speed and confidence. Eliminate the need for manual merge of Excel spreadsheets with flexibility and accuracy. Create flexible ad hoc reports and views. Automate data consolidation. You know, this is key. I mean, the best use case I can describe is, so people love Excel, and they do a lot of financial planning on Excel. And the problem with Excel is you have 3 people in 3 different divisions making their own Excel spreadsheets. To roll that up into one answer, you know, is really hard because even if you're using the same template, something changes. You know, and there are plenty of reports out there done by independent parties, Forrester and so forth, that say, you know, 90% of Excel spreadsheets have at least one error in them that people just go undetected. So using Excel for corporate analytics is not a good practice, but it's done all the time. So planning analytics, what that does is think of it as a central, you know, everybody's putting the data into the same, it's not an Excel, but it's called a database or a data warehouse. But you can make it look like Excel, like people are feeling like they're just doing their normal Excel stuff, but it's one version of the truth. What's nice about it is everybody can be it's like using SharePoint, right? You could be working off of the same data sets and, you know, with different permissions on who could all change data and so forth. I don't know, is that helping? I'm trying to describe what planning analytics is and why it would be useful. Yes, no?
Kira, can you hear?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I was talking away on mute here. Yes, the answer was yes. So I dropped that into my notes here on my other screen. So I think one of the things that's going to be important to know is that TM1 is an old term.
Yes.
And so we're going to want to start associating, you know, planning analytics, formerly known as TM1.
Yes,
in a lot of
I
our
would
content.
It's interesting. I often put that exact line in my emails to people. Planning analytics,
Okay.
parentheses, formerly known as TM1, ... Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So that's going to be important to highlight and to watch for as we refresh other content. So what other, let me just try to round this out a little bit so we've got a little bit more meat on, was there an analytics team before you guys? Did you were you brought in specifically for this project and are still working with them? How did the client get connected with you?
So here's the reality. Annie, we're going to have to schedule Brendan for 15 minutes to have this conversation with Kara, because I've extended the depth of my knowledge to those types of questions. Brendan could whip them off. I mean, let's.
Okay.
I think we need him to, and this is a good use case because it's a great client. They're very referenceable. They're I also have another document because I just submitted them, and I had why didn't I think of this before? I had Kathy, who works for Brendan, put this together, and it's more about it's more about the types of things we've done lately. So that'll be helpful, but why did they pick us and how do we get involved? That's got to be Brendan.
Okay.
But take a look at this that I am going to send you. Insert, send. And did I open it? I should open it. Okay, and then if I go over here to screen sharing, and I stop sharing, and then I reshare, I go here. Okay, so see if can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So again, Edie, this is what I submitted to, I cut and paste a lot of this and put it into the IBM submittal for reference that they accepted. But this should be helpful for Kara. How is each offering being used? I think it's used by employees. Yep. These are the types of the reports, budgets, finance reports. Again, so this is all about financing, budgeting, planning, sales reporting. But this is a little bit of what you were asking, why us or why, here were the challenges that they had faced
Perfect.
before.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yep.
Great. Okay.
Perfect. I think that works for Informa.
Yeah,
and
that's going to be great.
I sent Brendan a note. He is out beginning tomorrow until the new year, so I don't know that it's reasonable to think that we're going to get anything more on this. But I think we've got plenty to get started.
Yes.
I think you do. I mean, I think why they chose us or whatever, you literally, you could send them an email, Annie, and say, how did Informa find us or get started with us?
Okay.
Yeah, do you think they'd be willing to do a quick quote or no?
Sure. Yeah, they would.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just asked her to agree to this document, and she didn't even read it. She said, "That's fine. Whatever you submit to IBM is fine, Don." So.
Love it. Okay. Great.
Right. Switching gears.
Switching gears. Yes.
So, medical answering services. They are based in Syracuse, New York. This one I could tell you how we got engaged. I know the CIO. I used to coach soccer with the CIO back, a decade ago. But Jim Carrick, our CEO, I know you know Jim, he and ComSource were, I'm not sure how they got in there, but they were in there trying to pitch hardware, right? And we're talking to them, and the CEO of Medical Answering Services is very, he kind of typical entrepreneur, founder, sharp guy. He was asking lots of questions, and Jim basically said, are you guys doing analytics? Would you be interested in analytics? And of course, they'd be interested in analytics. They're not doing that much. That got me an entree, and when I went in, I come to find out the guy who's the CIO there is a guy he was my assistant coach, a long time ago when my kids were 10 and now they're 30. So, we had a good laugh and got caught up in this and that. But basically, Medical Answering Services, whenever the CEO wants, let me back up. What they do is they've won almost every county except for, Long Island, Nassau, and Suffolk in the state of New York for providing the medical Medicaid. Anybody on Medicaid who has to go to a doctor's appointment is entitled to be driven to their doctor's appointment if they don't have their own transportation. So there are lots of people that need buses or taxis, or they're working on getting Uber set up, basically to get people to their doctor's appointments. Now, some of these are, once a year. Others are dialysis once a week. So some of them are repeatable. Others are, not their first time. What's incredible to me, and again, I'm going to send you a PowerPoint because I put it together for our pitch to them. They do 40,000 calls a day, every day.
Oh my God!
Yes, it's just mind-boggling. It's like 7 million a year. So the bottom line is they grew from a small call center up to like 400 people in the course of 18 months when they start, because they won New York City. And their unique value is they understand all the rules, right? Literally, if you live within 3/4 of a mile of a bus stop, then you need to take the bus. But if you're more than 3/4 of a mile, then they'll get a cab to come to your house. And if you this, and if you that, and in some counties, some of the rules are different. So their unique value is they understand all the rules. They take care of the scheduling and billing and all that, right? But the CEO would just go to his IT guys and say, "Well, I want to know, which day of the week we have more dialysis trips, and can we group?" So he has all these questions on trying to optimize the processes. And they have no analytics capabilities, right? They're just, the guy has to go write SQL code, and 2 days later he gets an answer, and then the CEO has 5 other questions, right? So self-service Cognos Analytics is just the perfect solution for them. So they we did the classic sales pitches, and they loved it, and we showed them some potential use cases. They gave us some data. We did, a really good dog and pony show. But what I ended up selling really was an assessment for what they should do. And I'm going to send you the statement of work that we closed. It was like a $14,000 assessment. and Matt, who did the work, Matt Cardoni, and he did a really good job. I mean, and again, a classic assessment where you go in, you interview the people, you understand what they have, and part of the reason why we had to do an assessment was because they kept talking about wanting to build a data warehouse, and we weren't convinced they needed a data warehouse because their data source, they really only had one, maybe two different places the data was coming from. They weren't trying to combine, 8 different sources of data, which often, if that's the case, it's better if you do the combination into a data warehouse and then you do your reporting against the data warehouse.
Okay.
The reality is you can, if you only have 1 or 2 sources of data, you can pull each of them and combine them right in Cognos and do that. So they had this open question. So we ultimately sold them a little bit of, we need to do some discovery. It was like 2 weeks of work, right? 80 hours, and the output of it was very well received. Now, unfortunately, that was, we delivered that in May, June. They've had multiple organizational changes, and so right now Matt and I are trying to go back and reselling moving forward with the implementation of the product. And now with the organizational changes, some of the people want to, maybe we should look at things other than Cognos. So, but that doesn't take away from the need for doing a discovery assessment to lay out what are the key reports, who needs to be trained, do you need a data warehouse or not, those types of things.
Okay. And so if we step back before implementation, what was the decision? What is the implementation scope that you're recommending? Are you recommending a data warehouse? Why or why not?
Right. We ultimately did not recommend a data warehouse, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the final report that shows what our recommendations were. I'm going to send you the statement of work, which is what we did. And then I'll show you the subsequent proposal that we have now as to this is what we think you should do as your next project. Okay, so here is the next project, and I'm just putting those documents together for you right now.
Okay, perfect. And then while you're doing that, explain to me in layman's terms data warehouse. Is that software people would build? Is it a program to bring everything into one place and that's the quote unquote warehouse? When we're talking about, I just want to make sure that we're not leaving anything up to assumption. Because to me, I think data warehouse could be a bunch of different things, like a server where we're keeping all the data, depending on how technical or non-technical you are. A program, software, a physical or virtual place. What was their, thought of a data warehouse? Were they thinking storage for the data or a software program to manipulate it?
So a data warehouse, now, different companies have different technologies, right? IBM's classic data warehouse is DB2. Oracle's is, Oracle Data Warehouse. Microsoft often uses SQL Server. I mean, that's kind of their data warehouse. It's a place that you store data, and if you think a relational data warehouse is like an Excel spreadsheet, right? You think of rows and columns where you keep data and you associate it, right? On the left side are the 50 states in all the rows, and columns you have how many people live in the state, what's the age, the average age, what's the average income. You have just a lot of data that you're relating to each other in rows and columns. Does that make sense?
And so, yes. And so people, in theory, are building their own data warehouse in Excel through pivot tables.
Right. But Excel would never be called a data warehouse, if that makes sense.
Correct. I'm just trying to think about how we could position, kind of shoestring would be trying to pull, worksheets into Excel and use a pivot table to get the data versus investing in a software program to build out a true data warehouse. Like people may be starting in-house in Excel thinking that that's what they've got. I'm just thinking about.
Yeah, but I guess I think most people understand the term that would be looking at anything in our. I think people understand the term data warehouse. That the key is,
okay.
You need to go through the effort and build one to do
right.
a project that allows you to do self-service business intelligence. And
right.
In this case, the answer was no. In most cases, the answer is yes, but that's why we ended up doing a project was to rationalize and explain to. By the way, one of the key findings was, we can do it. The work we do will not be lost if later you decide to build a data warehouse, if that makes sense.
Okay. And primarily because they only had a few data points, it wasn't worth an investment to build the warehouse at this time.
Because they only had a few data sources, not points. I mean, they got lots and lots of data, but it's coming from one place. It's usually you need to build a data warehouse when you got 8. So I just used the state's example, right? So you got one file that has every state population. Now you have to go to some other system that has every state, GDP, and so another file that has every state something else. So somewhere you got to relate the data, and like you say, it's like building a Excel pivot table. But if they're out of 5 different transactional source systems, you have Cognos pull it from 5 different systems is a problem, because then you start affecting the transactional performance. Like you try to run a report, then you're screwing up the system that's inputting the data, if that makes sense. So that's why people build data warehouses. So
got it.
You do reporting against something that's not bothering the transactional system.
Okay, and so this project is you're looking ready to ramp to phase 2. I just want to see if there's any other. Who did you work with in this project? Was it a data team? Was it I know you said the executive wanted more data, but who you worked with, the CEO, to do this assessment and interview?
Yeah, I'm sending you the statement of work, right? That lays out what we did, met with stakeholders. Matt could tell you he interviewed, I want to say, 6 to 8 people. It's the analytics team, those types of folks. When I say analytics team, they didn't really have an analytics team, but they had people that they called like their R&D team. But again, they're manually doing things. So what I'm attaching is a presentation from the fall of 2018, which was like it's a PowerPoint that we used to sell, but if you click through it, you can see the current state and some of the pain points and things, and then the rest is all just us marketing material. So there's really only one key chart in there for you. And then I've given you the statement of work that we presented in the summer in May, that lays out what we were going to do and that they ultimately signed, which talks about, our process, which is good. And then I have our current statement of work, which is what I'm trying to sell them now, but they got to make the decision. So what you need, the one other file you need is, so what was the results? The key is, what was our statement of work and what were the results? So our final presentation, what did we find? Here it is. BI implementation, executive final. Insert, let me just check that. So that'll give you everything you need.
Awesome. Okay, then I won't keep you any longer. Final presentation results. Look.
Yeah, you'll like this one because, again, Matt was the consultant, and he did a really great job writing up the results. And then we put pricing and a timeline and what their next steps would be to move forward. Okay. Yep. Perfect. So you got 4 files that should, give you just about everything you need on that answering. Send.
Awesome. Okay. Is there anything else? I saw the note back that Brendan just came back with on kind of data points, what they're doing right now. Okay.
Yeah, I'm reading his email. So Informa Global Worldwide, again, which is important here is we started with the U.S. division of Informa. Now the company on a global basis is doing it, right? So, again, that because of the success that we provided in the U.S., the global CFO is making everybody do it. And here's forecasting and budgeting is the classic use case, right? If you're building a budget, you got to throw together things and you got to forecast sales, but financial reporting is key because that's a separate use case, right? What are you reporting to your shareholders that are a public company? If you're using planning analytics, it's key. Data is being imported from Oracle, SAP, Hyperion, Epicor. Again, these are all ERP systems where financial data is housed based upon how much they sell, this and that. Now, here's a case where data is being imported from 4 systems, and planning analytics is essentially aggregating. So you could think of planning analytics as being the data warehouse and reporting tool all in one in this case, right? There's not a central, it doesn't say data is being imported from Oracle, SAP, Hyperion, Epicor into Oracle data warehouse, and then, and then we're using planning analytics. This is where planning analytics and Cognos analytics are different, right? Cognos analytics is not as nimble as planning analytics. They have different functions, but anyway. Informa has a global consolidated framework for the first time ever using planning analytics, meaning you used to have all these different divisions. One person calls sales something, and a different division has, calls things sales, but they don't count the services in sales, but one division counts services in sales. Now there's a common language and definition, one version of the truth for a global corporation in different divisions. That's a big deal, right? And they're only able to do that because everybody's using planning analytics now. And there's a quantifiable result right there. Usage is doubled, so that's nice.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. Anything else I should know about either of these two? I believe the other one we've got.
That's probably plenty for right now. So
Okay, that works for
Happy
me.
to help.
I'm just waiting for those other files. It looks like here they are. Okay, just want to make sure I got those before we hopped off the phone. Annie, anything else
Not
that
on
we
these.
might have missed?
No, I don't think so. That was a lot more information than I thought we were going to get. So that's fantastic.
Awesome. Well, Don, I really appreciate your help. I will get working on these today.
not a problem. I'm happy to help however I can. Give me a call if
Okay.
you need.